Joseph! Joey awoke, the exasperation in his mum's voice making him aware that he'd been hearing it for some time as he opened his eyes, letting in his bedroom ceiling with its chocolate-brown painted picture rails. Joseph! He stared at the bare linoleum and the statue of Christ the King on the mantelpiece, then closed his eyes and tried to return to his catapulting cowboy dream. Wakey, wakey! Rise and shine! Downstairs in the kitchen, Mum turned from her new 1950s gas cooker to Dad, who was sitting beside the wireless listening to a Home Service news report about the death of Joseph Stalin the previous night. Dad spat expertly into the coal fire blazing in the cast-iron cooking range and said, Words falling on deaf ears, are they? I might as well talk to them all. Mum bristled. That fella needs a firm hand, Dad told her. You're right, Mum agreed. Better let him know who's boss. He'll get confused otherwise. Chop, chop, Jobo, Dad shouted up the narrow stairs. Get your skates on. Oh, no, Joey thought. It's Monday morning. School. Aloud, he called. I'm up, Dad. Come in. Actions speak louder than words, love, Mum called up. Let's hear the patter of tiny feet. Joey leaned out of bed and clumped his shoes across the floor like footsteps. That trick's as old as the hills, Joseph, Mum shouted. We fell out of our cradle laughing at it. Now you can stop trying to teach your grandmother to suck eggs, Dad shouted firmly, and get down here pronto. Soon Joey took his seat opposite Dad. Wrap yourself round this lot, love. Mum shook her head at the walnut cabinet of the wireless as she passed him a full plate. I don't know what the world's coming to. I really don't. Why isn't there ever any good news? It was never like this in our day. Man bring humanity to man, Dad said with his mouth full. You've only got to look at the war. What is it? Joey asked. What's happened? Two things we never talk about in this house, son, Dad said. Politics and religion. When breakfast was over, Mum put a shoebox into Joey's hands. Here, you never know you look in a big city. Oh, no! Joey's heart sank when he opened it. Not sandals. I hate sandals. No one in our class has got sandals. Don't make me wear them, Mum. Never look a gift horse in the mouth, Mum said, buckling them on firmly. You mustn't be afraid to swim against the tide, love. But, Mum, Joey pleaded. Dad, everyone will laugh. Straight home from school tonight, Joseph, Mum said obliviously. You can help me give the reins some elbow grease. You never lift a finger in this house. It's time you pull your weight. Joey left unhappily. At the corner of the street, he met his best friend, Anthony Appleton. Ant looked at Joey's feet. Yeah, who gave you them? Me mum, Joey said miserably. She made me wear them. They dawdled, and the next thing they knew, their church clock was striking 9. Afraid of getting the sharp edge of Miss McCabe's ruler across the back of their hands, they sprinted wildly, then crept fearfully into morning assembly where the school was singing God Bless Our Pope. Amazingly, no one dragged them out. And, Joey hissed, the teachers are smiling. It's that bloke who died this morning, Ant whispered. We might get a holiday. This made Joey grin, and Miss McCabe only suppressed her own good humour with an effort as she shouted, Joseph O'Shea, we mustn't laugh up our sleeve at the death of a human being. Now Monsignor Flynn will speak about this morning's momentous news. Good morning, children, the old priest said. Good morning, Monsignor Flynn, chorused the children. Well, children, Monsignor Flynn said, it's not for us mere mortals to decide what a judgment of God may have been. We're too humble for that, aren't we? Yes, Monsignor Flynn, the children chorused. Quite right. But it seems certain in this case that this monster, Joseph Stalin, a member of God's own holy church until the devil entered his soul, will be burning at this very moment in the flames of hell, in a torment that will go on for all eternity. Eternity. Now, that's a big word, children. Has anyone an idea what it means? John Kelly's hands shot up as usual. Yes, John Kelly. Forever and ever without end, Monsignor, the boy supplied. That's right, John Kelly. Burning in hell forever and ever without end, children. Can you imagine what that would be like? You can't, can you? No, Monsignor Flynn, the children sang dutifully. Say I were to light a holy candle like this. The ancient cleric's clean pink scalp shone through his white hair as he bent to strike a match. Can you imagine holding the palm of your hand over this little flame for 1 minute? Can you, children? No, Monsignor Flynn, the children cried, horror-struck. What about a day, then? The priest's beady old eyes darted from child to child. A month? A whole year? He paused triumphantly. This Joseph Stalin, who turned his back on the church to persecute its flock, will be screaming in agony in the red fires of hell for all eternity. Now we'll say 5 Hail Marys for the conversion of Russia. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed... Aunt! Joey hissed. You know Stalin? Yeah, Aunt whispered. What'd he die of? Brain hemorrhage, Aunt replied. Something burst inside his head, a dead little vein like, and blood trickled through all the little, them caterpillar things. Capillaries, Joey suggested. Aye, it was like a centipede with red-hot feet, Joey, creeping and crawling through his... Miss McCabe's enraged face came out of nowhere. As Joey flinched, expecting a slap, she twisted Aunt's ear viciously and said, Don't you dare chatter, Anthony Appleton, when we are talking with our blessed mother. At playtime, John Kelly pointed at Joey. Hey, you've got sandals. So, Joey had his defence ready. My mum said, You're the only boy in our class with sandals, John Kelly shouted. They're for girls. They began to chant, Joey's wearing sandals, he must be a girl. Joey's wearing sandals, he must be a girl. Other children gathered round and began a cruel chant. Girly, 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 pointing their finger in time with the word. Joey pushed blindly through them to escape through the school gate, unaware that John Kelly was following, still vengefully shouting, Girly, girly, until he'd slammed the steel gate on the lad's finger. Ah! John Kelly showed a painful-looking blood blister. You did that on purpose, he whined. I'm telling Miss. The other children melted away. There was silence until Miss McCabe came out, angry at having a break interrupted, slapped Joey's bare legs and dragged him inside, screaming. Coming down the beach? Aunt asked after school. I can't, Joey replied. I've got to go help my mum do the grate. Aunt did not say anything. OK, Joey said then. Only a few minutes, though. He pranced like an Indian piebald, then whinnied loudly and shouted, Aye-oh, Silver! As the boys ran off, slapping the sweating pony flanks of their own behind. Let's go over by the water, Aunt said when they arrived. Might find a starfish. OK. Joey saw a dead animal by the shoreline and broke into a run. Come on, might be a shark. We'll get 2 bob for the teeth if it is. They were disappointed when they reached the blown-up, bluish-white corpse. Don't go too close, Aunt said. You'll catch the dreaded leggy. Yeah. Joey stepped back. Stinks. It's a dog, innit? Might be a sheep, Aunt said. They're always in here. His smooth brow furrowed like corrugated cardboard. How do they get in here, Joey? They fall in the river higher up where it's country. Oh, yeah, I always forget about the country. Aunt paused. Let's go on the rocks. Only fish we'll find here are mazy goldfish. That's daft, Joey said, as they walked along the scummy tide mark with its tar-covered turds. There's no goldfish in there. Don't you know what mazy goldfish are? Aunt sniggered. Lumps of poo? Yuck, Joey grinned. Is that like a docker's oyster? Docker's oyster? Aunt looked puzzled. What's that? That's what my dad calls it when he yocks up a big greenie that sizzles on the back of the fire. A docker's oyster. Yuck! Hey, Joey said suddenly. I didn't know jellyfish had babies, did you? Babies? Aunt was curious. Where? There. Joey pointed. That little one. That's not a jellyfish, soft get. Aunt jeered. That's a rubber Johnny. What blokes put over there, Yuck. Joey hated any mention of sex. They don't, do they? Aye. Aunt showed off his knowledge proudly. Ladies do it for him, I think. What for? Curiosity drove Joey to ask. So they can't pee the bed, I suppose. Let's run, Joey. As Ant led the way over moss-covered rocks, he shouted over his shoulder, "Watch out on these, they're dead slippy." "All right." The words were not completely out when Joey's foot met a surface like oiled glass and his legs were whipped out from under him. He hadn't time to put out his hands and his nose struck rock with his full weight behind it. Through a blinding flash of pain he heard Ant say, "I told you these rocks are slippy." Blood splashed Joey's bare knees as he struggled to his feet. "Your nose is bleeding," Ant said infuriatingly. "I know that," Joey cried with redoubled force. "You fool!" "Hold your head back," Ant advised. "I hate that," Joey snapped. "It makes it worse. I'm going home." Joey stood outside the back door until he was sure the kitchen was empty, then crept inside. Oh no. Mum was on her knees beside the highly polished cooking range with the tin of zebra beside her. She wheeled around angrily. "What time do you call this? What do you think this place is, Joseph? A hotel?"
"What's all there to do?"
Dad asked, coming in. "I haven't seen hide nor hair of this fella all day," Mum explained, then turned to Joey and shouted, "You better pull your socks up, my lad. You're living the life of Riley."
"You're only young once," Dad reminded her mildly. "Make hay while the sun shines, Jobo." He winked. "School days are the happiest days of your life."
"They're not!"
Dad's words were untrue, and the knowledge of adult injustice they brought to Joey's mind struck him as violently as young legs slapped sore, making his anger erupt with the power of a nose hammered into rock. "I woke up with that Monday morning feeling, if you must know." He could not stop himself half shouting. "Got out of the wrong side of the bed. It's been one of those days ever since. You wouldn't get a worse one in a month of Sundays." Mum and Dad exchanged a confused glance. "Don't you dare talk to your father in that tone of voice. Look at you. You look like something the cat's brought in." Mum gained confidence with each well-worn phrase. "You might have been dragged through a hedge backwards. Those sandals were new on this morning. Now look at them." "They made me feel like a square peg in a round hole this morning," Joey said, unable to stop himself now. "The rest of my class split their sides laughing. I wouldn't be seen dead in them again." "What's he talking like that for?"
Dad whispered uncomfortably to Mum. "He's growing up," Mum whispered back. "And children can be very cruel, you know." "Accidents will happen," Joey carried on. "But when I caught John Kelly's finger in the gate, I felt the back of Miss McCabe's hand." "A good hiding never did us any harm, Joseph." Mum was stating the obvious. "I took French leave with Anthony Appleton today, Dad," Joey said. "We went AWOL. There's nought so bracing as sea air, is there? I thought I'd dip me toe in the good old briny."
"Lend me your ears for one split second, young Master Joseph."
Dad was getting annoyed.
"I'm not taking this kind of lip from you, not while you're under my roof. You'll feel the back of my hand before you're much older."
"I couldn't see the wood for the trees, Dad. Leapt before I looked." "This is the thanks we get, is it?" Mum asked, wringing her hands. "After the way we scrimped and saved, going without ourselves, never once expecting any reward. This is your idea of gratitude, is it?" "I went arse over tit, Mum. Me feet were taken out from under me."
"No good will come out of this, Joseph."
Dad wagged a warning finger in Joey's face.
"It'll end up in a crime match, you mark my words. I'll tan your hide if you're not careful."
"After all we've done for you," Mum recited, "the sacrifices we've made, I wouldn't talk to a dog the way you talk to us." "You know how pride goes before a fall," Joey said. "I was tossed about like a rag doll. Came a right cropper. I felt a proper Charlie, let me tell you."
"I'm usually a gentleman in the true sense of the word, Joseph," Dad shouted. "But if you know which side your bread's buttered, you'll get out of my sight double quick." Joey knew that the point of no return had now been reached. Part of him hated the perversity which made him shout the one phrase he knew would annoy them most. "I didn't ask to be born!" "You little bee!" Mum shouted and apologised to Dad. "Excuse my French, love. You know it's not like me to use language." She rounded on Joey then. "You'd make a saint swear, you really would." "I've warned you till I'm blue in the face,"
Dad shouted, giving Joey a slap that made his head spin. "Now get up the wooden hill. Go on, up to Bedfordshire." Joey clumped up the narrow stairs, threw himself on his bed and lay there sobbing. Dad sat down tremblingly in his armchair. After a minute, he became aware that a news report about the death of Stalin had been coming from the wireless throughout their domestic drama. "Hook that thing off, will you, love?" he said. Mum grasped the black Bakelite knob and